Okay, my name is Megan Garrison. This is for research-based instructional strategies and interventions. It's SPD 511-O500. I'm talking about the difference between evidence-based practices and high leverage practices in the classroom in students with autism spectrum disorder. EBPs and HLPs. EBPs, evidence-based practices, they focus on specific skills and specific directions, directly targeting specific behavior for different people. HLPs are broader, like a whole instructional area that it could apply to, or a certain way to teach a certain thing. The positive about the EBPs is that they're data driven, and in special ed we're always looking at data. They're individualized so that they can be tailored to the needs of each student. They all have measurable outcomes so that you can actually measure progress in them. A negative attribute would be how complex it could be and how difficult it could be to do it with any fidelity. It might actually be too specific where you couldn't generalize it at all, so you'd have to reinvent the wheel every time. And you could get so that you rely too much on it for your instructional strategies. Like, this worked, so this is all I'm going to do with this student. And never try anything new, never try anything different to see the strengths or weaknesses with other students. Let's see. Positive attributes of high leverage practices. They're versatile. You could use them in a math class. You could use them in an ELA. You could use them with low incidence students. You could use this with high incidence students. Even something similar like an autism versus just an intellectual disability, you could use those sort of things with both of those categories of folks. You use collaboration in doing those with your paraprofessionals, with your parents, with your SLPs, your OTs, PTs. It almost makes you have a positive classroom experience because it structures you so much. You have those clear expectations. You have visual cues. You have positive reinforcement. And those are all things that are very beneficial for students with autism spectrum disorder. One negative is that it lacks that specificity where you have that with the evidence-based practice. With HLPs, you don't necessarily, because it is so broad that maybe some of those things don't really apply to those people. And you also have the potential to misinterpret. It might be, you might have an FBA done, and one, a behavioral analysis person says you should do something one way and one says another, so that becomes an issue as well. Everything is, they complement each other because you can use them both in different ways. I mean, you need some of both of those strategies in order to be successful in a classroom with students with autism spectrum disorder. Low incident disabilities, HLPs. I personally work in low incidence all the time, and the explicit instruction in HLP, like with everything with a student, like a low incidence intellectual disabilities, low functioning students, the further you break it down, the easier it gets for them so that they can follow those steps. We have kids that have never been doing certain things, but now that they can, their parents are seeing what they truly can do. And it was because we take a lot for granted as far as steps that are taken for us to do things where we don't realize what those are. High incidence, I feel like one of the best things for those students, are visual supports and especially social skills training, because so much of how autism is perceived is socially through other people. So, and especially if the students with autism realize that they're different and they want to get, so that they can have those typical relationships with their peers. That would be something that would be good for instruction in a high incidence. Let's see. When and how, I think 3 reasons one is preferred over the other. I think that it would mostly depend on what you're trying to accomplish in your classroom. I think with HLPs, you would prefer those when you're first setting your classroom up, or if you're trying to get to the beginning of something to start a good routine. And then once you get that good routine going, then you can focus in more with the evidence-based practices so that you could go through those, the the social skills training, because you've been able to build relationships with the students. You have the visual supports, where you can say, all right, they can't figure out what this is, so I'm going to have to give them a visual support to say, hey, don't go in here, or this is what this word means. This is bathroom, or, this is where your snack is, or this is where your cubby is, because it has a picture of you. So they have these visual cues for those. You can't say like, I obviously prefer EBPs over HLPs because everyone truly uses a mixture of both things. And I think they're both valuable in the classroom. Thank you.